The following is an Encore presentation of Handling Stress. We've Got This with JJ Virgin.
Hey, it's JJ Virgin, and welcome to the JJ Virgin Lifestyle Show, where we talk to some of the coolest people in the world, and we look at things that help you look, think, and feel better. Now, today, we're talking to me because we are talking stress. I know a thing or two about this, having gone through some of the most stressful situations someone can go through in their life, nearly losing a child. Along with multiple divorces, near bankruptcies, on and on and on. Here's the cool thing about stress that you're going to love to hear is that stress, when you learn how to handle it correctly, you'll learn how to just go through this effortlessly and create massive resilience till you get to the point where you're like, that little thing, like right now this week, I'm going through a major move and it's like, okay, got it. We can do this. So let's talk about why stress is so darn bad, all right? Because I used to have this quiz, and it's actually part of the free guide, but then what I put for the quiz title was, is stress making you fat, old, and lose your sex drive? Yeah. And so stress will do all of those things. And I'm recording this live, by the way, as I'm doing this podcast. I'm recording it live on Facebook Live, and I see Linda is sharing, and I so appreciate everybody sharing this out to friends, because friends don't let friends get stressed, right? And if you're listening to the podcast, sharing the podcast with your friends as well. But, stress is one of those things that's very interesting when you look at it. It's like people hear it and they're like, meh, stress. And I remember going to a stress management class and I'm thinking, I'm stressed. The last thing I need are more things to do, right? But if I had to pick like one area of your life to focus on, and this was a lot of what the miracle mindset really talked about, it really would be about stress. It's just far easier to sell people on, hey, take these foods out and you'll lose 10 pounds, or do this exercise and you'll have great arms. But the bottom line is, you could be doing everything else right, but if you are not able to handle your stress, it will take you down. And here are all the rotten things it will do. And those of you watching on Facebook Live, let me know if any of these things are issues that you've struggled with. First thing is, if you're stressed out, you are not going to be craving salmon. You will be craving sweets. Here's why. So when you're stressed, you actually start to deplete something called serotonin. That's our happy, feel-good brain chemical. That's why when you're stressed, you feel anxious, irritable. Anyone noticing this one? Anxious and irritable. And you want the cookies. You want the sugar. And so, which of course then just messes with your blood sugar, and guess what? Makes you more irritable and more cranky and want more sugar. But one of the things that stress does is lower your serotonin. Another thing that it does is it starts to make your blood sugar unstable. In fact, I'll see people with perfect diets. They're eating well, and their blood sugar is elevated, and that is a sign of stress. Why? Here's what happens when we're stressed. Okay, we're still 1,000 years old. And so our stress system is built for the, oh my gosh, there's a tiger, there's a lion, I need to run. It's really not built for chronic stress. Think back 1,000 years ago, you would not have made it through chronic stress, you would have died. So our body sees stress, we drop a bunch of blood sugar into our bloodstream so we can run. We can get away. So adrenaline kicks in, blood sugar goes up so we can get the heck away. Then it drops down. You just went on a blood sugar roller coaster, and then you want sugar. Now, that's not the only thing that happens. So we know serotonin starts to go down. What happens when serotonin is not working well? You're not sleeping well. And what you'll notice, because you need serotonin to make your melatonin. So one of the other things that you find is that you're not sleeping well. Of course, we know this then creates more stress, more sugar cravings, more irritability, and poorer sleep. So it just becomes a really bad cycle. And I'm sure that I'm not the only one who's felt this way, right? And so let me know if you felt that way. I will tell you that sleep candy is my savior for this. And so if you're finding that you're either waking up a couple hours after you go to sleep, that can be a big blood sugar drop. Or if you are having trouble fall asleep, try sleep candy. All right, next thing that it can do. Now, a couple years ago, I became obsessed with food intolerance. As you know, actually about 8 years ago, I was obsessed with food intolerance. And these foods that you are eating oftentimes because you're trying to be healthy, but they're actually hurting you. And it turns out that one of the things, this is due to something called leaky gut, which is just what it sounds like. And by the way, I'm taping this podcast live on Facebook Live, and I see that Get Fit with Joy and another person I've got to check afterwards just shared, and I just want to say a shout out. Really appreciate you sharing. Anyway, one of the things that stress does is make your gut more permeable. It makes it leaky. It makes you more intolerant to food. And then we find that when we're more intolerant to food, we actually start to crave the very foods that are hurting us. That can cause us to gain weight. That can cause us to create inflammation. Now, another thing is that you have a lot of receptors for cortisol. So your adrenal glands pump out cortisol, and adrenaline and DHEA. Your adrenal glands or your belly has a lot of receptors for cortisol. So if you're thinking, gosh, why am I having this belly fat and why can't I lose it? That's because of the cortisol. I actually will use my waistline as my stress meter. If you're gaining weight around your waist and you're losing muscle, that is a real sign of having adrenal issues. Another one, and Deb says, I seem to crave salty snacks in the afternoon. Your adrenal glands need sea salt. We were just flying home on Tuesday night, I went to train. Maybe if you were on Facebook Live, you saw my video of it. I'm a big Pat Monahan fan, and he gave me a guitar signed for my birthday. How lucky am I? Anyway, I was flying home on Wednesday, and Tim showed me an article that said, they're finding that salt doesn't have the health issues that we thought it did with hypertension. I'm sorry, we knew this for years and years and years. And now we know that sea salt is nourishing, but not table salt, guys. Sea salt, where there's all these great minerals, it's so important. Sea salt is so critical for nourishing your adrenals. So if you need craving salt, you probably need to add some sea salt on in there. One of my favorite things is to do some broccoli. We had it last night for dinner, broccoli with ghee and sea salt. And see, I'm moving right now, and we still went and ate healthy last night. So there. We just did a drive-by Whole Foods, grabbed some broccoli, grabbed some meat, and away we went. There it is. All right. So we talked about, let's check it out. We talked about serotonin. We talked about leaky gut. We talked about sleep. We talked about belly fat. And remember, your body is going, oh my gosh, I'm under stress. I've got to run away from tigers. I got to store some fat here so that I'm always ready for the next big hit. Always ready for the next big hit. Okay, hunger. Not only are you lowering serotonin, you're are also lowering dopamine. So you're hungry. And of course, your blood sugar gets unstable. But another thing that it does is it trashes your immune system. I had a very interesting nutrition mentor early on who said we shouldn't get sick. And I'm like, I used to get sick every year. In February, I'd get sick. And I thought, oh my gosh, it's the weather. Well, I realized it actually was not the weather. And this idea that the weather makes you sick is just silly, by the way. What it was I'm a weight loss expert. Think about what is going on in January. Insanity. So in February, I would crash. My immune system just took a massive hit and down I went. So that's one really important thing to think about. I write about in The Miracle Mindset. I have a lot of hacks for really how to handle all of this level of stress, because obviously when my son was the victim of a hit and run, left for dead in the street, and then in the hospital for months, I had to really handle this. But one of the first things that I thought about there was, okay, I cannot get sick. I cannot get sick because if I'm sick, I can't go in the ICU. My son's in a coma. He has got tubes coming out of his brain, a central line. I can't get sick. And so what I did there was I just made sure that I was managing my stress. And again, I went through a lot of that in The Miracle Mindset. So you definitely want it to deal with, read that book. And also remember, you can get the guide, the stress guide, by going to my Facebook official page and typing in chill, you'll get the stress guide. Now, another critical thing that happens when your adrenals start to go sideways is your thyroid will be impacted, because it will actually impact your body's ability to convert from the inactive to active T3 form of thyroid. So that's why when we're looking at thyroid function, we always want to look at both adrenal function and thyroid function. They work together. And if your adrenals aren't working well, your thyroid most likely won't work well either, or it'll just take a while, it'll catch up and start to have problems. Now, another one that won't work well is your sex hormones. One of the things that happens when we're under a lot of stress is we lower progesterone as well. And so you will start to see all sorts of problems. If you're a woman with your cycles, you'll also lower testosterone. So men start to notice they can't build muscle. They lose their sex drive. They lose their motivation. As my son's been coming through this brain injury, we've been actually working with this amazing Navy SEAL doc to help him because he had pituitary problems that lowered his testosterone, lost his motivation, got depressed, couldn't do anything. So one of the things that stress will do is impact your hormones, especially testosterone. Remember now, that's muscle mass, fat burning, good mood, sex drive, and for women, and progesterone as well, which will then impact sleep, anxiety, etc. So these are all the problems with stress. Now I'm saying all of these and I'm sure people are going, yep. So this would be mean to tell you all these things and not and not tell you what the heck to do about it. So next step is, what can we do about it? And one of the things that I want you to really think about here is so much of stress is really our perception of stress. I mean, like when I was handling my son in the hospital, and here he is going between life and death. We nearly lost him a variety of times. In fact, over the last 4.5 years, we've nearly lost him like over 10 times. And it really got down to me learning how to handle higher and higher levels of stress. And I will tell you, over the last years, I brought out the Miracle Mindset book. That was so stressful for me because I was kind of pulling back the kimono, sharing so many of the challenges I'd gone through in my life, things that really were difficult, upsetting, depressing, embarrassing. I had shame around them, and it created a lot of stress to do that. And so I really used the tools I'm about to share with you to do that. But here's what happens every time you go through a stressful situation and you handle it. And I think to the book, and I'm wondering if I have it. Let me see if I have it right in this. I'm not sure if this book has it in here. Yes, I'm grabbing this book and I'm going to read to you my favorite quote from the super badass herself, Elizabeth Gilbert. I'm not going to say she used the S word. I'm going to say stuff, things. The women I love and admire for their strength and grace did not get that way because things worked out. They got that way because things went wrong and they handled it. They handled it in 1,000 different ways on 1,000 different days, but they handled it. Those women and men are my superheroes. And that's the deal. What do we know about life? Stuff is going to happen. And we have to handle it. And so what's going to make the difference between you handling it or not? Learning how to manage the stress. And first starts with perception. And that's where I come down to what I do every single day. I call it my jam: gratitude, appreciation, and little miracles. Every morning, pull out, I've got it right here actually, pull out your journal. See, and I'll show you, I'll flip through every morning. I do this, pull out my journal. I write down at least 3 things that I am grateful for, or who I am grateful for throughout the day. And this is a challenge. I'm challenging you guys all on this because it makes such a massive difference and it takes minutes. During the day, if something starts to knock you off, there's 2 things that you can do, and it's my appreciation piece of this. And the easiest one is to reach out and text someone and tell them what you appreciate about them. You want to change your attitude fast, or post on Facebook. If you're in, like I have a Miracle Mindset Academy, we have a private group, and I'll see people jumping in there and appreciating. I've been watching these. I'm trying not to watch the comments on Facebook Live right now because then I'll get sidetracked. I'll address them at the end. But I saw someone, I think, Deb, who's been struggling with, had a death in her family, and everyone's sending her their condolences and jumping in. And when you appreciate someone, when you do that, man, you can be in just an irritated, anxious mood, and boom, it shifts it. And then at night, and this is what, we do every single night, what went well today? We tend to focus as a society on all the stuff blowing up or going bad, but what went well today? Find 3 things that went well today. There are always 3 things. If you're still alive, it's a good day. It went well, right? So what went well today? That's my jam. Gratitude 3 times in the morning. 3 things, write it down. Appreciate someone throughout the day. 3 miracles, 3 little wins at night. I'm thinking of some of the people we've met since Grant's gone through his accident, and we've met a lot of people now who are have had brain injuries. And what's been incredible is to see their responses as they've had a brain injury, and what's happened with them is the gratitude. And one of the people that we met, her son had fallen through a skylight 3 stories down and major issues. And she is so grateful. She's so grateful every day. And so this really comes to a choice. And I know it's hard. And in the moment, I know, the first night I wasn't looking at my son going, I'm so grateful, but part of it is just learning how to look at what you're grateful for in the morning. Think about someone you can appreciate during the day. Look at those little miracles. They are all around us. And sometimes in those dark times, you might need to lean on a friend to help you find one. All right. So the jam's one of the ways I handle it. Another thing that I love to do, and again, if you go to my messenger on Facebook on my official page and type in chill, you will get the handbook that I have on this. But burst training, high intensity interval training, is phenomenal for teaching your sympathetic nervous system how to handle stress better, because you go all out and then you recover, and then you go all out and then you recover, like you're sprinting or running upstairs or sprinting on a bike, and then you just go easy. Do that for a minute hard, 2 minutes easy, a minute hard, 2 minutes easy, a minute easy, 2 minutes easy, couple times a week. It teaches your body how to handle stress better. It is key, especially as you're coming through adrenal exhaustion, to start to rebuild your body. Now, another one is tapping. I have become a massive fan of tapping. You can go back through my podcast. I did a podcast with Nick Ortner. I did a podcast with Dr. Dawson Church, both like 2 of the most revered people in the world of tapping. It's actually something I started doing with my kids when they were 5. And it is one of the fastest ways for me when I am feeling stressed. In fact, when I was getting ready to launch this book and I was so scared and freaked out, I was tapping like every day, a couple times a day. In fact, I got to the point where I was tapping in the bathtub, and I was talking to my buddy Ariel Ford. She goes, that's where I do it too. I'm like, okay, I'm not crazy. I'm de-stressing by getting in the bath with Epsom salts, tapping. And again, I would have you go look at either one of those podcasts. They're going to walk you through how to do tapping. So awesome. It's a part of what we put into the Miracle Mindset Academy. And I walk you through how to do tapping as well there. Okay, next one. The next thing that I want to talk about is sleep. No, not sleep. I talked sleep earlier about how this will impact it, but the next thing I want to talk about is, okay, we talked sleep candy. We talk about blood sugar balance. It's super important whether you're following the Virgin diet or the sugar impact diet. My favorite way to have you do this, of course, is to pick one of those diets first. If you've got sugar cravings, you're carb intolerant, you've got blood sugar instability, go for sugar impact diet. If you've got leaky gut, food intolerance, go for Virgin diet. If you're not sure, just get started. Either one is fine, doesn't matter. I like people to do both of them, because once you do both of them, once you go through one of them and figure out which foods work for you and which foods don't, then you can go to the sugar impact diet and figure out how many carbs you should be eating. Should you be in ketosis? Should you not be in ketosis? Should you be eating 150 carbs? So either way, they're built to work together, but both of them focus on creating blood sugar balance, and blood sugar balance is key here. So that's one of the first things, is eat by the JJ Virgin plate with clean, lean protein, healthy fats, and fiber. That's my beautiful trifecta. Take fish oil. Fish oil is super important for helping your receptors stay sensitive to the hormones. And sleep candy can be super helpful if you're having any issues with sleep. You'll see if you're watching me now on Facebook Live, I do have a cup of coffee. This is bulletproof coffee. It's the only coffee I can actually drink without feeling the jitters from caffeine. I either have to do espresso or I do bulletproof coffee. And I think it's because it's mycotoxin free. Shout out to my brother, Dave Asprey. Then the final thing are some nutrients that can help with stress. Now, I'm going to give you a couple things that you can do here. First of all, vitamin C is the most important vitamin that you can use for your adrenal glands, vitamin C. It is the big one used. So, in fact, they found that, especially if you're going through high stress times, I'm going to tell you to kick that vitamin C up to anywhere between 2 and 5 grams and divide it throughout the day. So just go grab vitamin C. This is not one you need to worry about. There are certain nutrients I want you to really spend your money on, like fish oil, and vitamin C is not one of them. So key vitamins here, vitamin C's, B vitamins get blown out during stress. B vitamins are critical too, especially vitamin C, B6, B5, and B2. I like B6 in the activated P5P form, but those ones are super important for the pathways that help you making adrenaline and cortisol. So these are super important. You may also need to take some extra DHEA, and this is where I recommend doing something called an adrenal salivary index test that has you spit 4 times during the day, morning, midday, late afternoon, and nighttime, and it tracks your cortisol rhythm, and then it gives you a ratio between cortisol and DHEA, and it can tell you, are you in an alarm stage, are you burnt out, or are you somewhere in between? And this is key. I actually do this every 6 months just to make sure I'm behaving myself, because it used to be that I would heal my adrenals and burn them out again and heal my adrenals and burn them out again. And I've finally gotten to the point where I can do this, and I knocked it off because what you measure, you can manage and improve. Okay. Now, a couple other nutrients I love, and I will tell you all of this is in a product that I've been working on for a while. Finally got it out here called Stress Reset. Had so many people asking about stuff, and I was taking like a bottle of ashwagandha and a bottle of rhodiola and a bottle of Panax. So the nutrients I really love here for helping with adrenals. And I'm going to read some stuff that will help you. But the nutrients I really love are ashwagandha, rhodiola, eleuthero, and Panax. And the reason is these together can help regenerate and improve the function of the hypothalamic cortisol receptors. And it's really so that the body can self-regulate. Another key thing here is licorice. Licorice helps keep adrenaline and cortisol around longer. So it takes the pressure off your adrenal glands. And then N-acetyl tyrosine, which is, by the way, the most available form of tyrosine. And that gets depleted under stress. And this is what you need to help you build your catecholamines. And again, I talked about the cofactors here, vitamin C, B6, B5, B2. So those are all in Stress Reset. So shout out for that if you're having some stress. And at this point, so those are all in Stress Reset. So again, supplements, balance your blood sugar with good, healthy diet. Make sure you're getting good sleep. Sleep Candy works well there. Do some stress training, and then find a technique like I love tapping, might be meditation for you. So find a technique that works well for you to do, and then do your jam, gratitude, appreciation, little miracles. Now, after the break, I'm going to be answering some listeners' questions, so stay with me. And we're back. This is the time where I answer a listener's question. And today's question came up while I was doing my Facebook Live. And again, I love to record my podcasts on Facebook Live. So if you are not over there on JJ Virgin Official, come on over and hang out with me. So during this Facebook Live, Jeanette says, my health is so overwhelming. Can you tell me where to start? All right. So here's the deal. Honestly, the very first place to start is, and I do this in all of my programs. Of course, Miracle Mindset's all about this. But in every single program that I do, Virgin Diet, Sugar Impact Diet, and their online programs, I always have you start first with your purpose, with your big why. Your health is overwhelming. Where do you want to be? Here you are now. And where do you want to be? And more importantly, why do you want to be there? What's going to change you in life because you change? Okay. So it always has to start there, because one of the things that I know is that, hey, it's actually a lot of the stuff that I'm going to teach and that I do teach is really simple stuff, but it's not easy. And there's a reason that we have so many unhealthy people out there. There's a lot of garbage food out there, garbage lifestyle habits. So, you're going to have to go against those things. And your big why, your purpose, helps push you through that. All right. So that's the first piece of it. Then I'm going to say, start with what's at the end of your fork. It is amazing how powerful it is just to simply shift what's at the end of your fork. So I always start there, is shifting through what's at the end of your fork. And so I'm going to recommend that you pick, starting with either the virgin diet or the sugar impact diet. And how do you know which one to start with? In reality, just pick one, but I'm going to give you some guidelines, because you're not going to go wrong if you go with either one of them. However, it's a little, I tell you, if you have GI issues, any gut issues, joint pain, autoimmune issues, I would start first with the virgin diet. If you've got blood sugar instability, sugar cravings, diabetes, insulin resistance, some heart issues, I would start with the sugar impact diet. I really want you to go through both of them, because what each of these programs do is take you through your own personal discovery process, you as your body detective. And you go through your personal discovery process and you figure out which foods work for you and which foods don't in the virgin diet. And you figure out how many carbs should you really be eating in the sugar impact diet. And then you can design a diet that works for you perfectly. Right? And that's what's so key. There is no one size fits all out there. And I have people go through these, it's one of those things that you can go back and do a little reset throughout the year. If you feel like you're not quite where you want to be with your health, then you could do a check back in again and retool and tune up. All right. Now, if you'd like to submit a question, again, head over to my Facebook page at JJ Virgin Official. You can also instant message me through my messenger there. We check those all out. Now, this is the gratitude portion of the show. And of course, you heard today in this show how big gratitude is for me. So it's where I highlight the review of the week. And by the way, we read, not just me, but our team, we read all these reviews. This is how we, get fed. So I super appreciate when you leave a review, and it means so much to all of us. Now, today's review is from Pastry Vanessa. Pastry Vanessa. My heart's beating a little fast on that one. She says, in a 5-star review, thank you for that. I love JJ Virgin. Just read her Miracle Mindset book, the first book I've read in 3 days in a long time, which means it was fantastic. Thank you for that, Vanessa. I truly believe JJ has it all. Her story in life inspires me every day. I look forward to listening to every podcast, and I've listened to all of them. Congratulations. I only wish they were longer. Well, today you got your wish, because boy, we had a lot to say about stress. And Vanessa, thank you so much. That book took a lot of courage to write, and I just want to see it out there helping as many people as possible. So I super appreciate you doing your part on that. And for everybody, thank you so much for joining me today. I want to remind you to take courageous, inspired action, and when that purpose is big, that's what happens. And every time you do that, you build resilience, and that helps you show up bigger in your life. Alrighty, until next time, this is JJ Virgin signing off and reminding you, live courageously. Bye-bye.